Nicholas Copernicus, against the Church, was powerless. He said that Earth was not the center. He became the astronomic mentor. His work suggested center sun, hence labeled were Copernican. Although his plan incorrect, he deserves much more than disrespect. He brought upon the future theories like Kepler and his use of Brahe's series. Although the Church had him surrounded, heliocentrism was finally founded. Thomas Hobbes supported centralization. To him, republic was a great abomination. He wrote Leviathan, a book about his plan. His doctrine directly opposed that of the Renaissance man. Life is nasty, brutish, and short, so absolutism became the final resort. Then came the famous influential John Locke. He proposed that life started from an empty block. Life is not determined, it's a fresh tabula rasa. His second treatise protected human rights like de la casa. Locke and Newton brought upon the Enlightenment idea. Philosophers enlightened despots like Teresa Maria. Voltaire said, crush the infamous thing. Go for liberalism, not the oppressive right wing. An anagram of his surname formed Voltaire. What a great pseudonym. A nom de guerre. Earthquake in Lisbon, the event was quite dire, brought upon his pessimism and his satire. He met with Diderot, helped him with his encyclopedia. It was a source of information, no Wikipedia. Books circulated through the streets, print media. Time to pass the speaker over to Aditya. Hello, and welcome to Trash Course European History. Today I will be analyzing the lyrics of this rap. Okay, so this first stanza is about Nicholas Copernicus. He was a Polish mathematician slash astronomer who created the heliocentric model of the universe. This model suggests the sun was the center of the universe and that celestial bodies orbit around the sun. This directly opposed the Church's geocentric model, which placed the Earth as the center of the universe. So Copernicus, as a religious man, actually waited several years before publishing his work on the geocentric model. And this was probably because he was scared like a little peasant. So overall, his model was not very accurate at all. The epicycles were still wrong, the circular orbits too. It really didn't create a more accurate calendar for the world. But however, his true significance is the legacy that he left. Future astronomers such as Kepler and his use of the foundation used Copernicus's model as the foundation of their own theories. Kepler, a student of Tycho Brahe, used Brahe's database of astronomical information to deduce that a heliocentric world would have elliptical orbits. Why elliptical? He didn't know. We'll have to wait for Newton to explain that one to the world. Okay, next we have Thomas Hobbes, this really pessimistic guy, who proposed that everyone was just born bad and stayed bad. So, well, you have to give him credit because he lived through the English Civil War, and that completely changed his views on human life. In his work, Leviathan, he outlined his thinking and said that order can only be established with an absolute ruler. Anyways, moving on to John Locke. He was an English philosopher who spread the teaching of tabula rasa. Unlike his counterpart, Hobbes, Locke saw humans as a blank slate that would shape depending on their influences from the environment. It developed a sense of personal identity and a less restrictive view on human nature. Along with Newton, Locke is agreed to be the most influential scientific revolution thinker that impacted the Enlightenment. Okay, now moving on to the Enlightenment. This rap discusses Voltaire, the famous English philosopher of the Enlightenment era. He said, crush the infamous thing, and he was referring to organized religion. I have to agree with this guy. You hoes need to learn how to sort out your issues. If your neighbor is Jewish and your mom is Muslim, why do you care? Learn to peaceful. So yeah, Voltaire wanted religious toleration to prevent unnecessary fighting. This next rhyme is quite clever. It rhymes Voltaire with nom de guerre, and this is because Voltaire was not his actual name. He formed it as an anagram out of the Latin translation of his last name, Autovet Lee. Nom de guerre pretty much just means pseudonym, so that is just the best word to possibly rhyme with Voltaire. Earthquake in Lisbon, a tragic historical event, took place on November 1st, 1755. It was measured around an 8.5 to 9.0 earthquake and had a death toll of almost 100,000 people. So pretty bad stuff. Afterwards, Voltaire wrote the book Candide, which reflected a sense of pessimism and satire. This book just shows that not all the Enlightenment thinkers were optimistic in their views. This last part is stuff about Diderot. Voltaire was actually a friend of Diderot and helped him out with his encyclopedia. Last part is just some fill-in BS. Transition, please.
World War II started off because of appeasement. The Prime Minister of Britain gave Hitler good treatment. The Russians agreed to the Nazi-Soviet pact. They thought the truce with the Germans would keep them from getting sacked. Hitler took advantage by taking good old Poland. The League of Nations didn't want him to take any more land. Then he had his camps for the gypsies and Jews, along with every guy or girl who questioned his views. Dang! Hecka bad! War had evolved now with a brand new tactic. Blitzkrieg or lightning warfare was very climactic. Dang! Hecka fast! Japan and the U.S. soon entered the war. U.S. knew Japan wasn't a place to ignore. Japan fell soon after with America on their tail. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, U.S. gave them no bail. Then Hitler for Europe talked about a new order. That's when he had finally crossed the border. That's when Germany saw the tide turn for the worst. After they drove into Russia, their army nearly burst. Then there was Stalingrad, where Stalin held his ground, but the Allies used their bombs on the entire Dresden Mound. There was the Battle of the Bulge and the capture of Berlin. Hitler decided for suicide, as he knew he couldn't win. The Holocaust, the mass murders, left a lasting mark. The organized killing was cause for great remark. 15 million soldiers gone, all of them were dead, and 40 million civilians withdrawn as they were forever put to bed. Dang! Hecka sad! Maybe the entire war could have been prevented if the Treaty of Versailles had never been invented. The war caused a split between East and West, as these rival superpowers wanted to be the best. The defeated powers then got treated weird. The Cold War, as a result, finally appeared. Dang! Hecka good!
From the freshest rapper on the block, Bartholomew de Casa.
Yo soy Bartolomé de la Casa, no creo en la diferencia entre la raza. Nuestra misión es salvarnos a casa, hablemos de amor sin usar amenaza. Vivamos con los indios en una casa, empecemos de nuevo como tabula rasa. Esclavitud y encomienda son fracaso, su tierra y su derecho no más trapaso. Antes de disparar, dar abrazo. La leyenda negra es real, hágame caso, mis versos son directos, mis rimas son fuertes. Si me combaten no tendrán ninguna suerte, como el debate en Valladolid. You can try to attack me, but friars don't bleed.
Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels attacked capitalism from all angles. They wrote the Communist Manifesto, fighting for the common man oppressed, yo. Pierre-Joseph Proudhon asked what is property and concluded that it's theft. Not for you and not for me. He said that anarchy is order without power. It's time for the people to rise. It's our hour. Joseph de Jacques advocated pure liberty, a system where goods are produced and delivered free, attractive labor. That's true emancipation, when a man would work without another man's persuasion. Pyotr Kropotkin wrote The Conquest of Bread. Mutual aid is not a new concept, he said. End wage labor and government control. Free association is our ultimate goal. Nestor Makhno led the Black Army in Ukraine. He fought for land and freedom, fought your hunger and your pain. Durruti fought the fascists in the Spanish Civil War. He was martyred for our cause, cause Franco had a little more. These great forefathers made our name, but throughout the years our creed has stayed the same. Jeder nach seinen Fähigkeiten, jeder nach seinen Bedürfnissen, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. No boss, no wage, no church, no state, no God, no king, no war, no hate. Anarcho-communism!
Bismarck led Germany to become a world power. Since 1871, Germany did not cower. He established the Three Emperors League in 1873, war in the Balkans, Russia broke free. Bismarck hosted the Congress of Berlin, however no more land did Germany want to win. With Russia alienated and out of the line, the dual alliance was created in 79. He knew Russia wouldn't ally with Britain or France. Revolutionary Russia, there was no chance. This alliance was a secret, that is true, but Italy joined it in 1822. When Wilhelm II became the Kaiser, that's when Germany needed somebody wiser, because in 1898 Bismarck had resigned, and from then on his policies were refined. Alfred von Trippett began submarine warfare. This risk theory, it was a dare. The dare was to have a better navy than Britain. The naval base in Agadir, the tension did thicken.
People use beats because they don't have rhymes, but we have rhymes, so we don't need beats. Henrik Ibsen's novel Ghosts isn't a happy story about milk or toast. It's about a son with syphilis and the mother's struggle to cope with this. George Bernard Shaw, the Irish writer against romanticism and respectability, was a fighter. In the novel, Miss Warren's profession dealt with the topic of prostitution. Friedrich Nietzsche was a skeptic. His ideas were really hectic. In his book, The Birth of Tragedy, he argued for emotions as opposed to rationality, and thus spoke Zarathustra, the prose poem. It was against Christianity's effects on the home, argued that God was dead, said democracy was for those sick in the head. He called for the rise of an Übermensch. Hitler called the Slavs the Untermensch. He argued against the existence of morality, said it was all just a human interpretation of reality. Sigmund Freud, a Jewish psychologist, opened up the field of psychoanalysis, argued that the development of the intellectual was affected by events that were sexual. He said that dreams were desires that were hid. Animalistic instincts were part of the id. Rational thought was the superego. Regulating both of them was the ego. Count Gobineau's racial theories concerned the Negro. Existentialism, it was a new thought, said the intrinsic value of life was not. It was inspired by Nietzsche and Kierkegaard. People had to bring meaning to life, lest society collapse due to strife.